Welcome to my channel. Support our channel by subscribing. Your subscription helps us grow and create more intriguing content like this. Now let's dive into today's story. Ethan thought he had everything. A stable marriage with his beautiful wife, Samantha, and a close relationship with his parents, Linda and Robert. They were a tight-knit family who supported each other through everything. Growing up, Ethan's parents had taught him the value of honesty and integrity, lessons he carried into his marriage. He met Samantha in college, and their connection was instant. They built a life together, and Ethan couldn't imagine anything coming between them. To him, Samantha was more than just his wife. She was his best friend, his confidant, and the person he could always count on. Life seemed perfect on the surface. They'd been married for several years and had settled into a routine that Ethan found comforting. His parents were often around for family gatherings, and they all enjoyed the time spent together. Linda and Robert adored Samantha, treating her like their own daughter. They were thrilled that Ethan had found such a wonderful partner. They trusted Samantha implicitly and never doubted her intentions. However, in hindsight, Ethan could see that there were subtle warning signs he'd overlooked. Samantha had grown more distant in the months leading up to the incident, often coming home late and appearing preoccupied. He dismissed it as work stress or just a phase, convinced that they would talk it through and get back to normal. The idea that his marriage and even his relationship with his parents could fall apart was unthinkable to him. But as Ethan was about to discover, trust is fragile, and sometimes the people closest to you can be the ones to break it. The day Samantha accused him of cheating, Ethan's world was turned upside down. It started as a quiet evening at home, but suddenly, Samantha's demeanor shifted. She confronted him, her eyes cold and voice steely, accusing him of having an affair. Ethan was blindsided. He had never been unfaithful and couldn't comprehend why she would believe such a thing. He tried to reason with her, insisting that he loved her deeply and would never betray her trust. But Samantha was adamant, claiming she had evidence of his supposed infidelity. Ethan's mind raced, wondering where these accusations were coming from. He asked to see the proof, but Samantha's responses were evasive, her conviction unwavering. He felt a mix of shock and desperation, his heart sinking as he realized that she truly believed, or wanted him to believe she did, that he had been unfaithful. The situation grew worse when Samantha started sharing these accusations with his parents, Linda and Robert. They had always trusted him, but hearing Samantha's accusations shook them. They confronted him, asking if there was any truth to the claims. Ethan was heartbroken, feeling the walls of his world closing in. The idea that his parents, the two people who had always believed in him, were now questioning his loyalty was unbearable. He pleaded with them, explaining that Samantha's accusations were baseless, but they seemed swayed by her emotional plea. Samantha painted herself as the victim, skillfully manipulating Linda and Robert's sympathies. Ethan was left feeling isolated, with no one to turn to. His marriage was crumbling, and his family, his lifelong support system, was slipping away. This betrayal cut deeply as he realized that even the people he loved most could be swayed by lies. The divorce process was grueling and emotionally exhausting for Ethan. Each day felt like he was being pulled further from the life he had known. He still held out a sliver of hope that Samantha would see reason or that his parents would understand his innocence. But every conversation he had with Linda and Robert seemed to drive the wedge deeper. They avoided his calls, and when they did speak, their words were filled with disappointment and judgment. He tried to remind them of his character, of the values they'd instilled in him. Yet Samantha's story had painted him as someone unrecognizable, someone who had betrayed their trust and the sanctity of marriage. As the divorce progressed, Ethan noticed that his circle of friends also began to distance themselves. Samantha's accusations spread like wildfire, and people were quick to believe her side of the story. friends he had known for years stopped reaching out, and the isolation became suffocating. He felt as though he was drowning in a sea of lies, with no way to prove his innocence. The emotional toll was immense, leaving him feeling defeated and alone. His reputation, something he had worked hard to build, was now in shambles, and the people he thought would stand by him had all but abandoned him. The pain of losing Samantha was compounded by the rejection from his parents. Linda and Robert had always been his biggest supporters, the people he looked up to. Knowing that they believed Samantha's lies, that they had turned against him, made the heartbreak unbearable. Ethan realized that he had not only lost his wife, but also his family. This chapter of his life was ending in the most painful way possible, leaving him with little hope and a heavy heart. He moved out, feeling as though he was leaving behind more than just a home. He was leaving behind his former life, a life he would never get back. After the divorce was finalized, Ethan was left with the monumental task of rebuilding his life from the ground up. He found a modest apartment on the other side of town, a small, quiet space that felt empty compared to the home he had shared with Samantha. The loneliness was overwhelming. Every morning, he woke up to silence, a stark contrast to the life he once knew. His routine had been shattered, and he found himself struggling to piece together a new normal. The absence of family, friends, and even the casual social connections he once had weighed heavily on him. Ethan tried to keep himself busy to numb the pain. He threw himself into work, taking on extra projects and working late hours. It was easier to focus on tasks than to face the reality of his situation. But even his work couldn't fill the void. Socially, he had become a ghost. Invitations to gatherings and events stopped coming, and his phone was silent. The stigma of the false accusations followed him, and no one seemed willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. He'd tried reaching out to a few friends, but their conversations were brief, awkward, and ultimately dismissive. The betrayal cut deeper each time he realized another connection was lost. He began finding solace in small routines, like going for long walks or spending time in nature where he could clear his mind and reflect. Despite everything, Ethan held on to a glimmer of hope that one day, the truth might come out. He clung to the belief that he wasn't defined by the lies told about him. Though his life was in pieces, he resolved to rebuild, no matter how long it took. In these quiet moments of solitude, he began to find strength, realizing that while he had lost nearly everything, he still had himself and the resilience to keep moving forward. Just as Ethan was beginning to find a sliver of peace, he was dealt another blow. One evening, a mutual friend reached out with surprising news. Samantha had remarried. Incredibly, it had only been 3 months since their divorce. The news left Ethan stunned, unable to comprehend how she could move on so quickly. His mind was filled with questions. Had she been seeing this new man, Alex? While they were still married, was this the reason she'd accused him of cheating, to justify her own actions? The betrayal now felt even deeper, as he realized there may have been ulterior motives behind her accusations. The news sent Ethan into a spiral, reopening the emotional wounds he'd been trying to heal. The thought of Samantha happily moving on while he was still struggling to rebuild filled him with anger and bitterness. It felt as though she had not only stolen his reputation, but also manipulated his family and friends, all for her own gain. Alex was someone he'd vaguely known, a friend Samantha had occasionally mentioned in passing. Now he wondered if their relationship had been more than just friendship all along. The idea that his life had been destroyed for someone else's benefit filled him with a sense of injustice. Ethan wrestled with his emotions, vacillating between anger, sadness, and a desire for closure. It was a painful realization, but he knew he couldn't change the past. Samantha had moved on, seemingly unscathed, while he was left to pick up the pieces. This betrayal forced Ethan to confront the reality that some people were capable of actions he'd never have imagined. The experience hardened him, but it also strengthened his resolve to rebuild his life on his own terms, without letting her actions define him. In the months that followed, Ethan found himself reflecting on everything that had happened. The initial shock and pain began to give way to clarity. He realized that Samantha's actions were not a reflection of his character, but of hers. She had betrayed him, manipulated his family, and painted him as a villain to cover her own actions. But her lies didn't define who he was. This realization marked a turning point in Ethan's healing journey, allowing him to reclaim his sense of self. He began to see the experience as a painful lesson about trust and resilience. Ethan started focusing on personal growth, taking up new hobbies and dedicating time to his passions. He embraced solitude, using it as a time to rebuild his inner strength and redefine his values. Instead of being consumed by bitterness, he chose to see this chapter as an opportunity to start fresh. He understood that while others may fail him, his integrity was something he could always hold on to. This newfound clarity gave him peace, as he decided to move forward with dignity, determined not to let Samantha's actions control his future. If we explore the possibility of reconciliation, it could add an emotionally powerful layer to Ethan's journey. After some time, Linda and Robert began hearing about Samantha's remarriage and rumors surrounding her actions. Doubts crept into their minds, and they felt regretful for having distanced themselves from their son. It took courage for them to reach out, and when they did, Ethan felt a mix of relief and hesitation. He wasn't sure if he could fully trust them again, but he wanted to heal the relationship. Rebuilding that bond was slow and took patience, as they all worked through the hurt and misunderstandings. Linda and Robert apologized, acknowledging the pain they had caused by believing Samantha's lies. Ethan accepted their apology, though he was cautious. This subplot of forgiveness added a sense of closure and healing, showing that even after betrayal, some relationships could be mended with time, trust, and understanding. The story concludes with Ethan reflecting on the lessons he's learned. Despite the pain of betrayal and loss, he found strength he never knew he had. He emerged from this experience more resilient and determined to live a life grounded in his own values, rather than letting others dictate his worth. The final takeaway emphasizes the power of self-reliance and resilience, as Ethan chooses to look forward, stronger, and wiser. Thank you for watching and joining me on this journey through Ethan's story of resilience and self-discovery. We hope this story resonated with you and reminded you of the importance of inner strength and staying true to yourself, even in the face of adversity. If you have similar experiences or thoughts to share, please leave a comment below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more powerful stories. Until next time, thank you for watching. ****.